It was good. Today went back and forth. The offense got off to a pretty fast start today. Went on a 10-play drive. It was awesome to see them operate and push different tempos up and down the field. Different players executing the ball, getting to different players, running the ball, throwing the ball. So they had a really good plan coming out today. It was good to see, and really the blue and the orange offense, the ones and the twos coming out the way they did. It was great to see how the defense responded. They came back, they locked it in. And that's what I mean by it went both ways. Both sides of the ball did some really good things today, which is obviously we've got to get in the film room as coaches and then hop in with the players and identify what are the things we're doing well, how can we continue to do those even better, what are the things that we aren't doing well that we want to continue to do, and analyze how are we going to teach and improve those things starting in the meeting rooms, obviously taking it to our individual sessions, group sessions, and so on before we get to team. But overall, throughout, through the first scrimmage here, the urgency the players are operating with is awesome. The leadership groups, the vibe they're bringing every day, the standard they're holding the whole team to has been awesome. And that's going to allow us to compete a certain way every day at practice. The competition at the line of scrimmage has been extremely physical. Iron sharpens iron. We got to continue to build on our fundamentals and techniques. We're playing with a great mentality up front. We ran the ball, pretty well today. There were a couple players that were up in the, 4.5, 5 yards average today, so it was good to see. It's good to see some of the backs step up and get some really good work, outside of George, and see Ashton, see T. Crow, see Elion do his deal and get in there, to see Caden get in there and carry the rock. All those guys had some great runs today, so that was obviously exciting to see. There were 5 players on offense that at least had 2 catches, so the quarterback spreading the ball around and doing a good job staying on time with that operation. But this is the biggest point right here where we wrap up scrimmage number 1. The evaluation time is huge. We've got to be able to self-scout ourselves and see how, number 1, where, then how are we going to make a huge jump in week number 2. This is where a ton of growth takes place. Players understand the basics, the younger guys. The older guys, they understand at a very high level. But there is always improvement to be made, and in this second week here, as we move into scrimmage number 2, we have to make a huge jump.
You mentioned the running game. Specifically, where have you guys improved the most in that area?
The O-line collectively working together, the quarterbacks being able to operate and get us in certain situations that we want, that are favorable for us. And I think the running backs doing a tremendous job understanding, what the O-line is working to get done in front of them and being able to attack the line of scrimmage and make vertical cuts and get up the field.
How important was it, do you think? You said the backs played well. Is that because the offensive line played, or how valuable was the line to the backs today? Yeah,
there's no question. Now, some of those guys had some really good runs where they created when there wasn't much. But there are plenty of plays today where the backs were able to put their foot in the ground and hit a vertical lane, and that's obviously really good to see. That's a lot of improvement from the spring into the summer, and that's the credit due to the hard work that's been put in.
What's been your biggest takeaway of fall camp so far? I don't know whether it could be X's and O's, attitude, I don't know what it is. What's been your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, it just starts with the mentality, Jay. It always does, right? Because it's day after day of getting yourself ready to go out there and compete at a certain level. And that's, if we can do that consistently and we train together and we prepare together the way we're capable of, the consistency we're building is what will allow us to grow forward here in the next week.
How much do the coaches control the tone, though? I mean, we've watched a little bit of you guys in even the warm-up lines. It feels like every coach probably greets every player almost every day. Is that a goal? I don't know if that. How do the coaches set the tone with that?
That's in the building. That's when we're getting ready for practice. We're all in it together. It's everybody. It's everybody together. It's our standard too as coaches. Our players, our leadership. The team will go as we lead. The team will go as we bring the urgency, the attention to the fine details every single day. and that's not just within the fundamentals and schemes, but how we operate at practice, how we move around from drill to drill. That's huge. It's not just the players, it's everybody in the organization, from whether it be the EQ, the equipment, to the trainers, to the video, everybody. And it's been awesome to see everybody's been working so consistent, and it's provided an environment for the players to compete and get better.
Who's looks good at receiver?
Yeah, so there's, again, the ball was getting spread around today. It was awesome to see. Steph did a really good job today, had some big time catches. Billy Bowens, Bolt made some plays today as well. The ball was really getting spread around. You know, from the standpoint too, we had some tight ends making some big time grabs. Ty Neal showed up today in some critical situations on some third downs, you know, and so Riley Smith is, you know, it's exciting to see him working his way back in, and not only working in, but he had an unbelievable catch the other day at practice, a big one-handed grab, you know, where he high-pointed the ball. So the ball is getting spread around. A few backs caught the ball out of the backfield as well today.
Dimitri was mentioning that when he came back from his injury, he kind of gained this perspective that, you know, allowed him to put things, you know, in their place, and now is able to play more free and just be happier on the football field. I mean, have you noticed a shift in him from last year to this year in terms of that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it really started towards the end of last season, when, you know, he's played a lot of football, but when you're on the shelf for a little while, you get a little rusty. And just working through that stuff and building your confidence back in, and so that you know and feel the way you did prior to. I mean, I will say that we have not only Dimitri right now, but it's, you know, it's obviously awesome to see OJ back out there and see him getting them back in the rhythm of the type of player he is, and obviously there's a few others too. So not only Dimitri, Markel, you know, seeing Markel out there and doing the things he's doing, man, he's coming out of some breaks and making some plays on the ball. So really, really excited about the return to play, guys.
You got to see Noah with the ball in his hands today. What stood out about him?
You know, that he will put his foot in the ground and he will get vertical with the rock in his hands, and that's, you know, that's all we're asking these guys, is to be decisive and hit that line of scrimmage. And, you know, again, to be able to come in here and build some depth into that room and compete the way he has on given the time frame has been really good.
When you talked to Tim Plow last week, he said, you know, as much as you'd like to have Shakir, he almost likes it when you don't have that obvious guy, because the quarterback can spread it around. The coaches don't game plan just for one guy.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of guys being involved. I mean, are you seeing that offensively?
Yeah, there's no question. Don't get me wrong, we'd love to have Shaq and miss our guy Shaq on multiple levels, but it does provide an opportunity, and now it is more difficult. The defense doesn't, hey, Shaq's over here on this side of the field. The ball's, you know, there's a high percentage it's going that way. The ball's getting spread around everywhere, and it spreads the defense out as well. And so it's the opportunity for a lot of guys to come up and compete, and we're just going to need those guys to keep growing and improving.
On that note, you know, maybe Shaq was the first read in the progression for a high percentage of pass plays last year. Is that kind of the design this year? We don't have to have that. We're going to have guys wherever they are, and there might be several different players who get that first look on a progression. Yeah,
there's no question. I mean, obviously when you got a player like Shaq, and don't get me wrong, I'll say it again, like, we would take Shaq back in a heartbeat. But you find the good in the situation you have, and that's what it is right now, is that we got multiple guys that are showing up consistently every day at the wide receiver position and improving, making plays. And now it's not just in the pass game too. Those guys got to block as well. And so seeing what they're going to bring to the run game.
Andy, you know, talking with a number of the guys, usually this will come up when we ask about individual goals, but whether it be Hank, JL, Steph Cobb said about, you know, he wants a ring. How much is, they're all talking about the Mountain West Championship and that being the ultimate goal. And I know that's normally the goal, but how much has that been reinforced? Because it just feels like across the board we're definitely hearing that message from the players this year.
Well, I think they know and understand. They know and understand what the goals are around here, but they have a way better understanding what the standard is to achieve. And we've been unbelievably consistent with that. Now, can we do that over and over and over again? And I think we're on our way to building some habits and some skills that are showing up day in and day out in terms of that type of mentality. Again, it takes a certain standard every single day to achieve a goal like that.
DJ was saying with you, the one thing he appreciates about you is that Is that intentional on your part? And given all that's going on, how hard is that?
Well, I mean, just what we ask of our players is we've got to model. And if we ask our guys to show up here, and it's not just for football, we ask them to show up the same way in the classroom. And eventually, these guys are going to be competing in another arena, whether it be in the business field, whether it be in law enforcement, whatever it is. A lot of us coaches, we are on the verge before we got into coaching and going into another arena just like them. And the number one thing that we want to make sure that, our guys leave here is with the ability every single morning to operate with a certain purpose and urgency that is going to allow them to learn, grow, and succeed in whatever arena it is that they go into. And for us as coaches, we can't ask them to do something that we're not doing.
We've talked a lot about the offense, but defensively, aside from like the obvious JL, Scott, who's a couple of guys maybe in the first 10 days of fall camp defensively that stood out to you?
Yeah, no question. I mean, DJ, has been extremely consistent at linebacker. Not only, getting guys lined up, handling coverages and adjustments and all that, but he's been extremely consistent with his play. Rodney, he's shown up, at his safety position. He caused a fumble today, filled the alley on a run play, and put his pad on the ball, and the ball popped out, and JL recovered it. And so Rodney's got plenty of room to continue to grow, but that's all we're asking is each and every day is we just get a little bit better. We talked about Markel. Markel is from practice number 1 to where we're at now. Markel has made tremendous improvement, and like we talked about, it's just really him getting back in his rhythm and knocking some of that rust off because he's a tremendous player and an unbelievable person. We've up front, we've got a ton of guys that are improving on the defensive line. George Tarlas, from what he looked like in the springtime to where he's at right now, not only in the run game, but he's been an extremely effective pass rusher. He's leading the squad in sacks right now in fall camp. We talked about Dimitri. Herb Gums, he looks like a totally different player than he was last year. Obviously, he was working off something last year, and he's got better at the end of the year and has only done nothing but continue to build. Jackson Craven's at that position too, getting back into the fold of things for himself. He's done a nice job. So it is obviously, it always starts up front. So building the depth, number 1, so we can practice a certain way and get the amount of reps that everybody on the team needs in both fronts. That's a huge deal because there's nothing like playing 11-on-11 football. And whether that's building a mentality, whether that's learning situations and executing situations, whether it's down and distance or within the field zones, clock situations, there's nothing like playing 11-on-11 football. And so really, on both sides of the ball, building that depth in the front so we can do that.
These position battles, do you see some of these going into close to game week, or do you have a philosophy of when you'd like to, officially name a starter?
This next week is going to be huge. That's why we say coming out of the first scrimmage, we're going to see where the guys that are going to be extremely consistent during the season, they're going to do it in this next week. They're going to make a huge jump. And it's at every position right now, right? Every position there is a battle. You can't show up here thinking, I'm good, I'm a starter. That ain't going to work. So what we see coming out of this scrimmage, what we identify and how we move forward, tomorrow the guys have a day off. And how we show up on Monday is going to tell us who are the dudes that can do this week in, week out, one day at a time.
We haven't talked about the quarterbacks yet, specifically Talon and Sam.
We're late in this media day session here. I was waiting for that.
So did one of those guys, really look good today? How'd that stack up?
No, they all did some good things. They all did some good things. The nature of the beast, again, they spreaded the ball around. The most important thing that they did today is they stayed on time and they got that ball out because the defense has been bringing good pressure, whether it's, 4, whatever it is, 5-3, whatever that is. The defense has been getting great pressure. And so being able to operate and stay on time through the progressions as we spoke about, trusting and knowing that there's guys all over the field that, are playmakers and getting the ball in their hands so that they can do something with it. But Hank did a nice job today. Again, the first drive came out, went right down the field, 10 plays, 75 yards. So that's an unbelievable way to start, obviously, against the defense. And we just got to keep building off of that. How do we repeat that over and over? What can we learn from even on that drive? What can we do better? The drives after that were, maybe a drive stalled out. How can Hank see a situation? How can he operate better the next time he is in that situation? TG ran around today, did some things, throwing the ball. Sam and TG split the 2 reps today, and they're both right there. I mean, they're both doing really good things, but this next week we got to make a huge jump at those guys and their consistency of their decision making, obviously late in the snap.
How did that drive end the 10 plays, 75 yards?
Say it again.
How did the drive end the 10 plays, 75 yards?
Oh, you know how it ended. With a touchdown.
Okay, but like who caught it? How did it happen?
Well, I would just say this. That drive was a mixture of great execution in the pass game and some really, really good runs right out of the gate. The details of how it happened and all that's for the people that were on the field. But to be able to come out against the defense and start fast like that right out of the gates is a huge plus for our offense. It's a huge plus for the whole group collectively. Coach Plow did a nice job putting a plan together, and obviously the players came out and attacked and kept their foot on the pedal throughout that drive. Now, how consistently can we do that?